It's 2017. The global side of the game just had its second year anniversary, and JP had just suffered one of the worst releases of all time. But whatever you were playing on global or JP, nobody expected what was coming next.
You see that on the screen? You see that on the screen? All I got to say, this shit better be real.
What the fuck? What the fuck? No, 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 no.
This shit better, look at my face, better be real.
No, 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 no. This no, no, no. This not real. 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 No, 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 no.
What? What? I'm speechless.
I am speechless. No, I am speechless.
Deep Z Space dropped the bombshell. Big bombshell.
Everybody has been wanting this card. Everyone.
We're talking about Super Saiyan 4 Gogeta and New Omega Shenron. Yes, new card stuff are coming. Super Saiyan 4 Gogeta and Shenron coming to global! Global!
Global, not JP, not Japanese. I know I said JP first. Japanese, I know some people use two different ones, whatever, to say the same thing. It's not Japanese Dokkan Battle League. It's global.
This is real. Super Saiyan 4
Super Saiyan 4 Gogeta!
A shared celebration between both versions, turning one of the most infamous memes within the community into reality. Or at least, that's what people hoped for. Hi, I'm Ploof, and in today's video, we'll go over the history of Super Saiyan 4 Gogeta in the hit mobile game Dragon Ball Z Dokkan Battle. We'll start with Super Saiyan 4 Gogeta's first appearance, during the 200 million download celebration. Probably one of the hypest celebrations of all time. As mentioned at the beginning of the video, not a single person expected Dokkan to drop a shared celebration in August, let alone have it introduce one of the most anticipated releases of all time. Most people were speculating that Super Saiyan 4 Gogeta would be one of the third year anniversary headliners. Like, we already had all of the hype fusions in the game. The only one missing was Super Saiyan 4 Gogeta. So you can imagine what a surprise it was to see him come out of nowhere on both versions at the same time, while also introducing a new meta with the category leader skills. It was like the anniversary came early on JP, and on global, it felt like having two anniversaries back to back. Well, almost. Because as most of you guys already know, on global, he had no leader skill. So we'll focus on his JP release for this video. And let me tell you, the guy was good. Very good. He had pretty much the best leader skill in the game. One of the best super attack effects you could have at the time, and honestly, a pretty decent passive. He also had one of the most OP abilities at the time, super attack counters. But unlike the second year anniversary Super Saiyan 4's, he had a 70% chance of countering super attacks, which was more than double what Super Saiyan 4 Goku and Vegeta had. So yeah, he was looking very strong. But what might surprise you is that this guy actually disappointed a lot of players at the time, and understandably so. Like I already said, he was one of the most anticipated cards ever, so people's expectations were already sky high. And then the APT guys came along and showed everyone that hey, this guy doesn't hit as hard as Super Saiyan 4 Goku when linked with his best linking partner. Then they saw his link set, and he didn't have Saiyan Roar, one of the strongest offensive links in the game, a link that he should have had. Like, he's a great ape unit. It just didn't make sense.
I just saw someone say that he doesn't have Saiyan Roar, and yeah, that sucks. That actually hurts him quite a bit, because if he had Saiyan fucking Roar, like, and he's really a hero lead, like, if you had a rotation of Super Saiyan 4 Goku, Vegeta, and Gogeta, and they all were sharing, you know, Fierce Battle, Saiyan Roar, GT, Shocking Speed, Super Saiyan, like, that would just be a rotation of absolute insanity and death.
The fact that Super Battle Road wasn't a thing yet also didn't help his case, because that meant that the only metric this guy could be evaluated on was his offense, which was not bad by any means, but it wasn't any better than the previous NeoGods leaders, which was a bad look for such a hype unit. The whole global to be released leader skill fiasco also obviously didn't help either. People were also disappointed by his category, since they initially thought that it would include every fusion unit, meaning every Gogeta and Vegito, not just the fusions done by the Fusion Dance. But like, yeah, sure, the category was still very good if he had all of the premium units, just not as good as people would have hoped for. But if we take a step back and look at how good he was a couple of months after his release, yeah, he was definitely him. Not as good as the meme, but still pretty crazy. That attack and defensive buff, coupled with his super attack counter, made him an absolute beast for years to come in SBR. Now, fast forward a few years, and Dokkan dropped another Super Saiyan 4 Gogeta out of nowhere. And yet again, nobody expected it. They just released him as a regular Dokkan Fest back in October 2020. I still remember seeing the V-Jump leaks that month and being in complete disbelief. Like, bro, what? Super Saiyan 4 Gogeta as a random monthly TUR? The first one in 3 years? Bro. It had to be a mistake or something. Like, there was just no way. And we all expected him to be an absolute beast, which he was. This guy was probably the best TUR on release. Not by much, like you could still argue that someone like Tech Gohan was better than him, which obviously became clear with the arrival of Red Zone the next year, but at the time, I think it was safe to say that he was at least a top 3 Dokkan Fest TUR. He introduced one of the most wanted categories in the game, the Super Saiyan 4 category, and made it even better by including all of the great ape units, while also giving it the best leader skill buff a category could have, 3 key and 170% HP attack and defense. For context, even Dokkan Fest LRs at the time weren't given a 170% buff to all stats. LR Super Vegito, who came out 2 months prior, gave a 130% HP and 170% attack and defense to 2 categories. But obviously those 2 categories were stronger than the Super Saiyan 4 category, but the Super Saiyan 4 category got a massive buff literally the next month on JP, when they dropped like 4 new Super Saiyan 4 units, including Super Saiyan 4 Vegito, who was just insane on release. Now, coming back to Gogeta's kit, he had the same super attack effect as his 3-year-old counterpart, so yeah, it wasn't as good as it was back in 2017, but it was still decent, especially coupled with his massive start of turn buff of 200% attack and defense, with an additional 4 key and 40% attack and defense for his first 8 turns, while also being super effective against all types. So yeah, this guy was just doing free damage while also being able to tank decently well in the hard events we had at the time. Like sure, a super in ESBR could hurt him, but just like Tech's percent for Gogeta, he had a super attack counter. Sure, it was just like a high chance instead of a 70% chance, but a great chance like his Tech counterpart would have probably been too OP. Still, I remember people arguing that he was actually worse than his Tech counterpart, just because he had a 50% chance of countering super attacks instead of 70%, which was just crazy. Like, ain't no way this guy was worse than his Tech counterpart. But I do agree that he could have had more, being like Gogeta and all. I don't think the devs really understood at the time just how hype Super Saiyan 4 Gogeta was. Like, for them, he was just a regular unit. They could drop as a filler TUR but with big celebrations. Like, literally. Like, bro, what? How did the New Year celebration that year feature Paikon and Janemba, 2 units who were 100% less hyped than Super Saiyan 4 Gogeta, but they just dropped Gogeta as a regular Dokkan Fest TUR? Like, bro, it was just crazy. But yeah, this guy also had an active skill, which was quite insane. It just gave him more stats while debuffing the enemies for 1 turn. And since active skill buffs were calculated separately, it just made him hit like a truck in that turn. And the condition wasn't the worst, but not the best either. You had to get hit 4 times, which could happen in 1 turn, making you able to use his active skill in the second phase. But from what I remember, fights in SBR were pretty much done by turn 3 or 4, so you had to have him on rotation turn 1 or 2 to see that active skill there. But it wasn't a problem in the Legendary Goku event, which was actually still part of the meta. I also remember that this guy was kind of dupe reliant. Like, his base defensive stat at 55% was very low, especially for a Dokkan Fest TUR. And for him to be really insane offensively, you needed those hidden potential system additionals. So honestly, this guy was probably worse than Tech's percent for Gogeta on release, or at least on the same level. Like, they were both good and could arguably be seen as the best TURs of their time, but that's the problem. It was arguable. Like, they weren't clear number 1s. On the bright side, I could see this guy EZA this year, or during the 11th year anniversary, whenever the next time they're dropping a new Super Saiyan 4 character. Now, moving on to the 7th year anniversary. This time around, we were actually expecting a new LR Super Saiyan 4 Gogeta. Like, it was time. And for once, Super Saiyan 4 Gogeta was clear as day, the best unit in the game. Sure, you could argue that his first place was shared with his anniversary counterpart, but he was still at the top, and it was deserved. He introduced the Fused Fighter category into the game, the category that people wanted the Fusion category to be like back in 2017. So this was kind of the beginning of a redemption arc for Gogeta, because just like his end counterpart, he gave the best leader skill buff you could give to a category at the time, 170% to all stats and 200% to all stats if the units were also in the Kamehameha category, and most of those crazy fusions were in Kamehameha, so you can best believe that this was insane. I think the Blue Boys had a better leader skill at the time, but this guy for sure had the second best leader skill in the game. Then in base, they stacked attack and defense on both their 12 and 18 key super attacks, while guarding for their first appearance and having the potential to super attack 3 times within the same turn. So yeah, just with that, they were already looking insane. And then we saw GOATgeta, and how he could effortlessly transform into him starting from the 4th turn. And bro, it was just a wrap. He massively raised attack and defense on his 18 key, which was an insane buff for an LR, and then also introduced a new mechanic that allowed him to disable an enemy's action once within the turn with that same super attack. Like, this was just insane, and is still to this day an insane ability. That action he disabled could have been an enemy's super attack that would have killed you otherwise. But even then, he also had a high chance of dodging and countering enemy super attacks. Add that to the damage reduction he got per rainbow key spheres obtained, and yeah, that GOATgeta was pretty much untouchable in Satsu. And bro, that active skill turn was just insane. The amount of damage that guy was dishing out with the attack he stacked in base and guaranteed crits, bro, it was just crazy. His only downside really was how his kit was a little bit too RNG reliant. Unlike the blue duos, he didn't have a guaranteed additional super attack, just a high chance of launching an additional super attack. And if you weren't lucky with orb placements, super attack counters or additional supers, you could die to an enemy super attack. But you needed pretty much everything to go wrong for that to happen in slot 2 or 3. So GOATgeta was still a monster, he just didn't completely stomp the hard content at the time. But then again, no units did. The red zone meta was just something else. And he was still at the time the closest thing we had ever seen to the meme. During that same celebration, we had the EZA of text percent for GOATgeta. An EZA that honestly was solid at the time, but nothing crazy. Like, they barely gave him anything, just more stats, and I guess he could now lower defense on super. Like, they really held back on his EZA. He was barely better than his in counterpart, who came 2 years prior. I think I never used him after the 7th year anniversary. Like, he got completely power capped in like a month or 2 on global. And even during the 7th year anniversary, I barely used him. He could have been insane against Broly if they had changed his super attack counter to a nullification earlier. But at the time, it was still considered a dodge, and Broly's final phase disabled dodge. And as far as I remember, that GOATgeta wasn't able to tank a super from Red Zone Broly. He was good against Omega though, but Omega was just so much easier than Broly that it didn't really mean anything. Like, he could easily clear that event without him. Now, moving on to the 10th year anniversary, it finally gave us the anticipated EZA of the 7th year anniversary GOATgeta, and bro, he was just him. In base, they greatly stacked attack and defense on both their 12 and 18 super attacks, which was just insane, with LR stats and the massive buffs they had at the start of turn. Add guard to that, and the fact that they could super up to 4 times within the same turn, 5 on their first appearance, and yeah, you can guess that they got pretty nasty offensively and defensively after a few turns. But the craziest part, all those stacks carried over to GOATgeta, and he was just something else. Super effective against all types, had guard and damage reduction, launched multiple super attacks for free, was a rainbow orb changer, had a great chance of countering enemy super attacks. His counters did a ridiculous amount of damage. His super attack counter was even guaranteed the first time the enemy's HP dropped below 50%. Like bro, it was just ridiculous. But what was even more ridiculous was the fact that they gave him an unconditional Scalder. Like, I didn't mind units being broken beyond belief, but for the first time in history, I generally thought that they just went too far. The only way you could lose with this guy is if another unit on your team died, but with his Scalder, this could literally only happen if the boss had some sort of AoE attack. So yeah, this guy just felt like the best unit in the game, or at least very close to it. Like, this guy was literally the GOATgeta meme as a playable character, literally. Anyways, as for the future of Super Saiyan 4 GOATgeta, well, we now know that the second part of the global Dokkan celebration will feature a new LR standalone Super Saiyan 4 GOATgeta, which is just so hype. Like, finally, a standalone fusion. And I'm sure this guy will be very good. They are probably also going to EZA in Super Saiyan 4 GOATgeta that same celebration. I don't really have high hopes for that EZA, but Omatsu could always surprise us. After that, I think it's pretty obvious that it's only a matter of time before we get a tag Super Saiyan for Goku and Vegeta, with one of them having a Super Saiyan 4 GOATgeta active skill transformation or active skill attack. Either way, that's going to be a very cool unit. I could also see them dropping clone versions of Super Saiyan 4 GOATgeta at some point in the future, so that could be pretty cool, but I don't know. Let me know what you think in the comments down below, and yeah, I'll catch you in the next video. Take care, peace.